Welcome back to the Fighting Saints Report. Jack Milewski joined by Jim Leitner. Monday, February 3rd, the lazy Monday after the Super Bowl. It always seems a little bit sluggish after.
People want this to be like a national day off.
I do. To be fair, I want a lot of days to be national days off, though, so that's not saying much. But I feel like the Super Bowl has a good case. I would pitch that case.
Oh, man. It's like the day after Thanksgiving in terms of you really need that day to recoup for all the calories you consume.
No disrespect to a lot of other holidays out there, but I would substitute a lot of other days that we have to go into work for a day off on the Super Bowl.
That's not a bad idea. I think we need to get the right people in politics to agree with that and get that switched. Although I'm sure in Missouri and Kansas, there's probably a lot of people who are given the day off.
Yeah, I would hope so. I would hope that their bosses allow them a day to bask in all the glory, although if they already got a day off for the Blues winning the Stanley Cup, I mean, in Missouri, you might not get a day. I don't know. There was a lot of winning down there in Missouri these last couple months. But as we digress, we look at this weekend for the Fighting Saints. We pegged February as moving month for Dubuque, largely because the schedule was so tough in January. And then to begin the year, you had a lot of travel to the Western Conference teams. And we didn't peg this at the beginning of the year, but when we saw kind of how teams were falling into place, February lines up as probably the easiest month in terms of winning percentage against the teams that Dubuque will face. You've got another team that you can take advantage of, especially on the offensive end of things in Youngstown this weekend. Phantoms come in, pretty good weekend against Cedar Rapids. They took 3 of 4 points away from the Rough Riders. They are in 6th place in the Eastern Conference, 38 points. They're tied with Muskegon in terms of points. They're 4 up on Cedar Rapids in the point column, but they have 2 more games played than CR. So really every single series the rest of the way for the Youngstown Phantoms is big. But looking at their score sheet, 116 goals for, 155 goals against. That started to catch up with them. They've lost some more games. At the beginning of the season, they were winning even though their goal differential was bad, but that's continued to balloon, and big opportunity for the Fighting Saints, who are really feeling it offensively, to take advantage of another pretty poor defense.
No doubt about it. And, this is our first really chance to get to see Youngstown. And, I look at Youngstown the last couple of years. They've always been just such a hard team to play against. Just a team that, just grinds you down. The Saints have really had trouble with Youngstown the last couple years, except for the playoffs last year. But they've always had trouble with the way that Youngstown really likes to grind them down. And from what I've seen in the limited views that I've had just watching them on hockey TV, it doesn't seem like they play that grinding style as often as they did. And I think that's probably why their goal differential is so out of whack. And so this is a good opportunity for the Fighting Saints, like you said, to exploit a team that's been struggling. But, I think Youngstown's a team. It's one of those teams in that bottom tier that really needs a couple signature wins, really needs to go on a run to solidify a playoff spot. And, I think I just looked back a couple weekends ago when Cedar Rapids swept Chicago. That was something that gave them a boost of confidence going into the rest of the season. I think right now we're going to have to start seeing teams looking at Dubuque that same way, in terms of saying, if we beat Dubuque this weekend, this is a signature win. This could really boost us in for the rest of the year. So I think that's something the Fighting Saints have to caution against, and they have to come out all guns a-blazing and not look past this team at all.
Offensively, Youngstown reminds me a lot of the Madison Capitals in the sense that they have that one guy that really scores well and almost at will. For Madison, it's Carson Bantle, and Dubuque avoided him on Saturday. He was out with an illness. For Youngstown, it's Trevor Kuntar. He's second in the USHL in goals with 23. He's got 42 points, already well ahead of his mark last year where he had 36 in 61 games. Tremendous season for Kuntar, but it feels like with both those teams, if you're able to take that one guy out of the offense, there's not a bunch to fall back on. And so I think for the Fighting Saints, that has to be part of the game plan, is just settle down Kuntar, keep him contained, and the rest will probably fall into place.
Yeah, it's kind of the exact opposite of what we've been talking about in terms of the Saints. With 3 good quality lines that, have taken their turns in terms of leading the team to victories throughout this year. Youngstown's the opposite. They go as Trevor Kuntar goes. And again, I think if you shut him down, shut his line down, or at least limit what they can do, limit them to maybe 1 goal or 2 goals, you're putting yourself in a much better position to win, and let your depth take over and win the game for you. So, but I think Dubuque is as good as they come in the USHL defensively, still leading the league, only allowing 86 goals, number 1 in the league. So it's going to be a nice challenge for the Fighting Saints defense, to have a top-end goal scorer come to town and an opportunity to shut him down and prove a point.
And another key to this weekend, you just mentioned it, come to town. Youngstown has to do that. They have to travel almost 10 hours to get here. For the Fighting Saints, obviously for any team, holding down the fort on home ice is important, but especially when you get a team that is going to be at least a little weary from travel. Anytime you spend that much time on a bus, the legs have to be a little less than 100%. They're right now on a current 4-game home winning streak, and with these active crowds that they've had, it's turning into a pretty big home ice advantage for the Fighting Saints. And boy, you would love to have a 4-game homestand and be able to win all 4.
No doubt about it. And again, it's a point in the season where you need to really gain more separation from the teams that are right behind you. And, right now we're seeing that already. The Saints are starting to gain that separation. And not only are they starting to get that separation, they're starting to dwindle away at that separation that Chicago has on them. So really good opportunity. And I like the focus in this team here. I mean, in the past couple of years, you'd see, I think the Saints have lost some games that they really shouldn't have lost, or they've lost to inferior teams. And, this team, it just seems like they have a different focus. They just they're just more prepared, or they're more equipped to win these games that they really have to win or really should win. And I think that's where you're going to get your separation.
Yeah, Fighting Saints this weekend against Youngstown, Friday night at 7:05, Saturday, same time and same place. Again, a 4-game homestand for Dubuque. And this stretch of games continues where they're really not going to have to travel too far. They only have 1 weekend, all of February, where there's any lengthy travel, and that's a 3-3 towards the back end of the month, where they go to Plymouth and then Muskegon. So these are the games you really want to capitalize on when you can sleep in your own bed every night, have a full week of practice plans that are normal, and be able to create that as much energy as possible for the weekend. And the big thing for the Fighting Saints is talking with all the players. They obviously love playing at home. It's a good environment to play in, and when you're playing at home, you saw it on there. They were just having fun this last week, and obviously, again, scoring a lot of goals helps. But there's, as simple as it sounds, it's a very tough thing to overcome when you're in opposition, when you have a team this skilled that's also just having as much fun as Dubuque is having every single night. They're enjoying playing the game, and that's lending itself to a lot of these big performances.
I think that's a huge factor that I don't know that a lot of fans necessarily see just how much fun they're having. You see it on game night, but I think we see it a little bit more like after the game, down in the runway, or as they're winding down from a game, how much fun they're having, how much they enjoy each other's company. And today they have an off day, but I'm sure they're going to spend most of it with their teammates, and just because it's a great culture, it's a great environment, and the guys get along so well. And you can't, when you're part of a team and environment, you can't underestimate the value of that, and just enjoying being around each other. And there have been teams in many leagues that are more talented that just don't perform because they don't have that chemistry. They don't have that, that cohesiveness. And I think that's really one of the strengths of this team is they all get along so well. They goof around with each other. They take the ribbing, good-heartedly, and it's a fun group of kids to be around.
Oliver David, Super Bowl Monday off. That guy has the right idea. I mean, that's...
Well, hopefully that didn't give the guys, the reason to go out and eat as many wings as they could, or...
I don't think so. I wonder how many of the guys even watched the Super Bowl last night. That'd be an interesting poll to do in the locker room. You have a lot of Canadians in there that might not really care about the Super Bowl, but we'd see.
It's a great way to see what our culture is all about, though.
Yeah.
I'm always curious, like the Europeans, what they think of the Super Bowl. If they look at it the same way that we look at maybe the World Cup soccer, or no, World Cup soccer is becoming much larger here in the United States, but years ago it was an afterthought. But it'd be interesting to see how the Europeans react to the Super Bowl.
I think the NFL in London has certainly helped with that. I know a couple people from London who are big time into the Super Bowl, probably even more than I am. So, but I would say vast majority certainly don't care nearly as much as we do.
It's got to be better than the Grey Cup, though, for the Canadian fans.
You would think so.
I would hope so. I would hope so. I don't know.
Last year's Super Bowl wasn't better than I didn't even watch the Grey Cup, and I can tell you last year's Super Bowl wasn't better.
Well, that's not saying much, though.
Right, exactly. This year was a good game. Well, maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more towards the end of the show. But when we come back, we'll look at the USHL standings. And as Jim mentioned, Dubuque closing the gap on Chicago. The Chicago Steel finally looking human the last couple weekends. We'll touch on that a little bit more.